Welcome to the Suburbs with Andy and Greg.
So tell me, how many years did you do open mics?
I did open mics for 3 years, and then the job that I was working came to an end. They went out of business. That's how terrible I was. No, it was owned by the Kmart Corporation, and they decided we're done with this division. We're quitting. So you can either move to Detroit and work in a Kmart.
Blue light special.
Yeah. Why? I'm pretty sure you have Kmarts all over the place. Why are you moving me to Detroit? And that would be a no for me.
Not Detroit.
That would be a no. So, which is where Jeff Foxworthy came up with the idea of you may be a redneck if.
Oh, really?
It was at a comedy club in the suburbs of Detroit, Chaplin's Comedy Club. Chaplin's Comedy Club in this, and I don't know if it was a Livonia, I can't remember which suburb they were in. It was a building that had a comedy club and a bowling alley that valet parked.
Comedy club and a bowling. Wow.
Yeah, in the same building. And so, and Foxworthy made some comment like, man, you know, you've made it as a redneck if you go to a bowling alley that valet parks. And the rest is history.
Wow.
So, so I opted out of the blue light special career and decided, well, it's now or never. And so I did some odd jobs until I could fill my schedule with enough club work to make a living at it.
You know, you stuck with it. And obviously, a bad comedian's not going to make it, no matter how hard they try. It's inevitable. You're going to have to realize this ain't for me.
Well, the thing is about it, though, that makes it hard, good or bad, is that booking agents at the time, it's back to the booking agents, and I know that they have a bad name in every probably industry that there is. And so these agents, like there's a guy that booked the Funny Bone in Milwaukee. There were funny bones all over the place. You could do nothing but work the Funny Bone if you were in with Mitch Kutash and Jeff Schneider. Mitch Kutash and Jeff Schneider were a comedy duo that ended up not being funny enough to make it, but they understood that comedy was going to be big, and so they started the Funny Bone. They ended up like having two different ideas on the way that those clubs should be run, and so Jeff ended up, he's like, hey, you don't know what you're talking about. So he got Milwaukee and Pittsburgh, and Kutash had the rest of the world. He probably opened 40 of them. I don't even know.
Yeah, it was the first franchise for sure.
Yeah, probably. There were, and then there were other franchises around.
I think that's the one that sticks in my mind as the first known entity as a franchise.
Right. And so Jeff, if you could get through the gruffness, was very fair. But he was, he I would call him and he'd book me, or he would say, there was one time where I called him and he goes, I don't have time for your minuscule career right now. Said those very words. Well, there were so many people where he said that to, and they went and hid under a rock. They're like, I can't believe that guy just talked to me that way. And so he said that to me, and I said, when will you? He goes, call me Tuesday.
There you go.
So I called him Tuesday, and I got a date. And I said, who am I working with? And he said, comedian number 54. What's it matter? We're selling drinks here. And so that was kind of that's like the mindset of a lot of them. Or as long as I've got a guy talking behind the microphone that's willing to have the stage presence necessary to stand and talk behind a microphone, I don't care.
You were living your dream, and that was part of it, and made the best of it. I get it. You know, probably that's the way it is for bands that are touring.
Well, you played the drums. Did you ever play in a band?
Nothing that ever did anything of significance, just garage bands in high school.
Okay. When did you start playing the drums?
Fifth grade.
Fifth grade?
You either had to be in choir or band.
Okay.
Pick one. I picked band.
Okay.
And I wanted to be a drummer because of the Monkees.
The Monkees?
I was even a member of the Monkees fan club.
Were you?
Yeah.
Did you have the lunchbox?
Didn't have a lunchbox, but I had
Thermos?
I had a whole fancy portfolio, glossy portfolio with pictures and
really
letter
posters.
the whole 9 yards, probably,
Cardboard cutout.
whole thing. And
did you sing to them?
no,
Were you a drummer singer?
no, I was just a drummer.
Okay.
So pick one, choir or band. So I picked band and drums, and that was probably 4th grade, and it was like
Wow.
a bunch of drummers, clarinets, and trumpets. I think that's all it was. I mean, those are or maybe flutes. I mean, that's just the bare minimum, the easiest things that people could hack away at.
Yeah.
And it was just, it was an awful sound, I'm sure.
Oh, can't even imagine. Well, I can because my kids went through it too.
A room full of kids just hacking away at whole notes. Mary Had a Little Lamb. Mm-hmm. And then you had to audition to get into band. Mm. And I remember practicing on my practice pad.
Yes.
And okay, it's time for your audition. And I auditioned, and you pass. You're in band, in 5th grade band now. And so that was a big deal.
Yeah.
Accomplishment.
Yeah.
That
drumming pad were you drumming on the bus?
Probably.
Yeah. I saw kids with the drumming pad drumming on the bus.
Some of the kids that didn't make it, they sent them to choir. All these terrible musicians.
Throw them a bone.
You're not in choir, but
oh gosh,
it was clearly one or the other.
So who was the big drummer to you once you got in and you were looking at? Were you thinking rock and roll the minute that you're in the 5th grade with it?
No, probably not. I mean, the progression was from 5th grade band and then
girlfriend,
middle
roadie, tour bus,
yeah. Then 6th grade was middle school, so that was, now that's the next level.
Drinking. I was in that finding myself phase. It was pre-comedy. I wanted to do comedy. I couldn't tell anybody I wanted to do comedy because I didn't want to hear the feedback from everybody saying, you can't make a living that, or comedy. I don't even think you're funny. Why would you, all that
stuff. That's a good joke. You're not even funny.
You're not even funny. How are you funny? You're not funny around the house. No, I'm not funny around the house, but you're my mom. Why do I want to be funny to you? You're telling me to clean my room. What is funny in that? Now, when I shut the door, all the things I say about you are funny to me.
I promise.
Or angry.
Yeah.
One of the other. I mean, I had a love-hate relationship with my parent. They split when I was in the 7th grade. I didn't even know they didn't like each other. I mean, I thought we were a big family. And all of a sudden, there's a family meeting. Uh-oh. In the family room. And they said, your father and I have decided we don't love each other anymore, and we're going to get a divorce. What? We go on family vacations. I don't understand it. You don't fight? You don't? I mean, it just hit me out of left field. And
they hit it well.
They did hide it well. I think my mom realized my dad had it hidden well. I don't even think she knew, Mm-hmm. And so then she's like, well, let's go to therapy. And he's like, I don't want your stinking therapy. I just want to leave you.
Bye now.
It's not you, it's me.
Right, here we go.
Right. This guy named Mark White was an accident kid. His brothers and sisters, he became an uncle in 2nd grade. That's how much of an accident he was. They were married and in college, and all of a sudden Mark came around. And so he and I were best friends. We were in the same class through all of elementary school and part of middle school. When you're changing classes, we're still in the same classes together. It was this weird thing where the planets aligned. And so he says to me, and so his parents worked, and they just he was so far, they're just there's food in the fridge. I mean, he was such a latchkey kid. And his dad was a dentist, and I think his mom was the receptionist at the dental office. So he would just come home and do whatever. And it didn't matter that he was 6. They thought they were so done with kids.
He'll be fine.
Yeah, he'll be fine. Yeah. What kind of problems could he get into? So he's rummaging around in his brother's rooms, who are either in college or married.
Right.
And he comes across a George Carlin album. And so he's quoting it at school. And I'm but he's doing it it's a part of our conversation. And so he's talking about the hippy dippy weatherman.
He's just dropping stuff in.
Dropping it in, yeah, as a part of conversation. He goes, you got to come over. And I'm like, okay. So he goes into the closet and gets this album, and I listen to it, and just bing.
Class Clown.
It might have been, or
That's
Occupation Fool.
Oh, okay. That's the green one, green cover, I think.
I couldn't even tell you that.
I just did.
Yeah, you did. I mean,
Well, I don't know if I'm right.
How do you know that?
I don't know. There's this crazy stuff that just pops
That you
in my
remember?
brain.
See,
Yeah.
I can't remember algebra, but I can tell you all kinds of stupid things that don't matter. So anyway, he played Occupation Fool to me. A light turned on, and I thought, I have got to do this. I want to be a comedian. And so I studied it.
Yeah, I remember when that stuff came out. It was like,
Couldn't
get enough
so
of it.
good.
Yeah, couldn't get enough of it.
And so I would listen to it. I would listen. There was a show called Dr. Demento.
Yeah,
and I would listen
I used
to
to
it
listen to that as a kid.
Sunday nights.
Yeah, when I was in like probably middle school or
Right.
younger.
Yeah.
Dr. Demento Radio Hour.
Right.
Yeah.
And I would listen to it like, why is that funny? What makes that funny? How do you make that funny? And studied it. And so then I started writing comedy when I was in high school. And I just kept it to myself. It was like this, I'm supposed to be doing English or algebra, and I'm writing jokes instead. And so then when I got the opportunity to do it, it blindsided everybody. Like Crackers opened. I decided I'm going to do an open mic at Crackers. It's just like, I got to do this. I can't have this pecking in my mind about you got to do stand up. You got to do stand up. I have to do it.
Yeah. So do you remember that first open mic vividly?
I do.
Did it get recorded?
I hope it didn't.
Okay, there you go.
I had this whole act written out, and at the last minute, I decided to tell a story instead, and it got no laughs. And then this guy heckled me in the middle of the whole no laugh 5-minute set, and I roasted him. And the whole it got like an ovation. I think people were so feeling sorry for me
because you were going
that I was eating cheese from the big wheel the entire thing.
Sinking, the ship was sinking.
Oh my God, it sank. I was just standing there in water up to my ankles. And he threw me a line that I could respond to and just roasted him. And that was all it took. It was like, that is what I thought comedy should be. And so from that point on, then I thought, okay, I can't tell stories.
Okay. Note to self.
Right. Yeah. Right.
The old storyteller.
I was working a club with a friend of mine. It was in Dayton, Ohio. And at that club, they put you up in a house. And a lot of times it's a comedy condo. But in this case, it was a house. And we were working together, and I was excited to see him. And we're talking, and we're catching up. And I hear, and I said, I looked at him, and I go, what is that? And he goes, I don't know. And, do you have clothes in the dryer? I don't even know if this place has a dryer. And he goes, no, I don't have clothes in the dryer. Do you have something in the oven? And he goes,
you got something in something. Something in anything.
He goes, no, I don't have anything in the oven. What is that? And so I start like walking around, and I'm waiting for it to go, there it is. And I'm in the hallway in between the bedrooms. And there's a door there, and I open the door, and it's a closet, and there's this box up in the closet, and I said, it's coming from this box. I think it's a doorbell. And so he goes to the front door, and there's a guy standing there ringing.
About time.
Yeah, and he never knocked. He never did anything. He just kept pushing the doorbell buzzer, and he said, hey, my name's Gary. I used to live in this house. Is there any mail for me? I don't know. We just got here, Gary. We didn't even know that was a doorbell.
Oh, yeah, that buzzer thing.
By the way, your clothes are dry.
Exactly, and there's something in the oven.
Here in Indy, what a great place to be from doing stand-up, because you could develop as as a writer and as a performer in Indianapolis, and then you could drive to 3 hours to Columbus, Ohio, to a full week Funny Bone room and do 8 shows. Mm-hmm. I supported my family developing and earning money to get to the point where I did have the time that would work on The Tonight Show or on Letterman. Mm-hmm. And then you go there and you do your set. There, of course, and this happens probably more now than ever before, people come out of the womb and they're like, I should be the president. I mean, they're what? Do time, develop an act. I'm already funny. I should already. Do you have 7 minutes of really funny material? Yes, I have 7 minutes. Really? Because I didn't hear anybody laughing at your set. There was nobody laughing at your show. Did you realize that? No, I didn't realize. You're telling me that I'm not funny? I'm telling you you're not funny. I was working with Steve Harvey at a comedy club in Fort Wayne, Indiana. It was owned by a guy named Kevin, and Kevin wanted desperately to be David Letterman. I mean, he really wanted it. He wanted it badly enough that he created a set and a television show. Night Shift was the name of the show. He dressed like David Letterman. I mean, to the shoes, dressed like David Letterman. And so you would go do a regular show on Wednesday night, and then Thursday would be an open mic show, and then you would be on Night Shift, the knockoff TV show from Late Night with David Letterman, and then you would do the regular rest of the week at that club. And so Steve Harvey,
so that was part of the deal. Part of the deal was you would do his side show, basically.
Yeah,
it's part of it.
Oh, and trust me, he milked that. Like he wanted to pay you less because you ended up getting a TV credit,
exposure,
and you got a tape. Of course, he charged you extra for the tape, but you got the tape of being on the show, so you could use that to
further your career.
Probably, yeah. At whatever the suburb,
or to tape over it for a basketball game.
Well, you couldn't because it wasn't a VHS tape.
3/4 inch show.
What was the big
3/4 inch? Probably.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
So I couldn't. I couldn't tape over. That's the bad thing about. Not only could I not really use it to get into places, I also couldn't record over it. So it was just it's a deteriorating tape someplace.
There you go.
Mike burned it.
It's in the burn barrel.
That's right. He burned it. I breathed it in, and I've got lung cookies as a result. So. So we're sitting there. Steve Harvey at the time isn't Steve Harvey, and so he's just a schmo. He hasn't done anything yet, and I'm still a schmo, and I still haven't done anything yet. So he of course is like incredibly famous these days. But we're sitting there, and it's before there's a dude that's going to do a guest set, and he's like the Doctor of Comedy was what he went by, and Steve Harvey is like the Doctor of Comedy. The Doctor is in the house. What makes you be the Doctor of Comedy, Mr. Doctor? And so he's like bantering back and forth with this guy, and he's like, are you a professional comedian? And he's like, well, I've worked with Paula Poundstone and insert name of other
name dropping
name dropping, and so he's like, really? Okay, so tell me something, Doctor. Are you really working with them on the road, or are you doing open mics with them here at this club? He's like, well, I'm doing open mics at this club with them. I mean, totally found him out. Like he had so much bravado before Steve asked him the one question that he had to be honest with. Yeah, and then all of a sudden he's just like below the chair that Mike's going to burn later.
He's a mouse.
Yeah, totally looking for chip scraps. And so he goes up and he does his set, and he's got this tape recorder, and so he's like always recording his sets. So the next night he comes back, and it's the open mic before Night Shift, the TV show, And he's all excited, and Steve Harvey's like, the doctor is back. The doctor is in the house. Hey, doctor, how's it going? You going to do another set for us tonight? And he's like, I am. And he goes, and this time I brought a new tape recorder to record my show. And he's like, oh, good. All right. He's going to record the show. Doctor's recording the show. And, he's riffing and everything. So he goes up, does a set, comes back the next night because he's just like a junkie that way. And Steve sees him, and he's like, so, doctor, how'd the set go? Did you play the set back? Did you get the recording? And he goes, yeah, I did get the recording, and I've got a faulty tape recorder. I'm going to have to take that back because it didn't work. He's like, didn't work? What do you mean that it didn't work? And he's like, well, it recorded me, but it didn't record the laughs. And he's like, didn't record the laughs? You know why? And he's like, yeah, I think it's faulty. No, it's because you ain't funny, brother. There wasn't anybody laughing. Not one person laughed. It picked it up because there wasn't anything to pick up. Nobody was laughing. And I'm just sitting there like, that guy, I mean, first of all, he punches him in the gut over not really working with Paula Poundstone. And then he says, you ain't funny the next night.
Hi, this is Andy. If you enjoyed listening to our podcast, please be sure to like and subscribe. Remember, laughter's contagious. Help us spread it by telling a friend.